What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another FPL video. My name is Mo, and today in this video I'll be going through the current transfer tips within Game Week 3 for FPL. What talks were taking place within the FPL community of what players have been identified. So in this video, as you guys know in this series, that I identified players within 4 categories. So the 4 categories will be buy, sell, keep and scout. So we'll go through all the sections of which players I've identified and the rationale and the reasonings behind them. We'll look at current form, fixtures, background stats and personal inkling and kind of like reasonings around why I think this player, from what I've seen so far, may have not got the returns, for example, but they look good and lined up for good points in the coming weeks. So before we get stuck in, guys, if you guys are new around here and you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free. Help us grow this channel and hit the like button too. And let's continue through with our players that we've identified. So the first category that we're going to be doing is buying. Now, I know that the ownership for Reece James, I should say, if you're new to the game, has gone down from around 43 to 45% pre-season Game Week 1 to around 39% for Game Week 2. Obvious reasons. I think the Chelsea game against Tottenham was the big thing that people were like, look, we just want to look elsewhere or play another player or transfer a player out. So there was a knee-jerk in Game Week 1. Now what's happened is, let's look at the next 5 fixtures and review how his game against Spurs went this weekend. So what have we learned from him? Despite getting 2 yellow cards, which he's consistent with, he's actually able to get some bonus points as well. He's very lucky not to get the own goal rewarded to him by FPL, and I think Kane was extremely lucky as well to get the points for those goals that was scored in the last minute by, I would say, Reece James rather than Kane, which is awarded to him. But what we need to identify is how well has he done? Has he actually been rightly rewarded the points he's got? What we can expect from him in the next coming fixtures. So we'll identify the 5 next fixtures that he has. And do I think it's worth buying him in your squad if you don't own him already? Now, one of the main kind of like focus points this game week, in Game Week 2, whilst the game week was taking place and the first half of football ended for the Spurs-Chelsea game, was Cucurella. So Cucurella gets the assist, he gets the start firstly. There's an absolute uproar in the FPL community. Cucurella, 5 million, absolute bargain. Yes, that's true, but there's a lot of things that we need to take into account for Cucurella, which I'll kind of tell you guys to keep in your kind of like scout section rather than your kind of like buy section for this game, because in my opinion, but we'll go through that in the scout section, why I think we should scout him a bit more. But in terms of Reece James, he's proven that in terms of he can be either playing right centre-back, which I don't believe is the right place for him. At right wing-back, he got the assist, and he looked far more deadlier. He almost got an assist where Havertz, I don't know how he missed that goal, but he scored the goal. So he could have actually had 2 returns and could have got more points for us as an FPL manager. This is how much value he adds to your squad. At 6 mil, I think he's underpriced, firstly. Secondly, the fixtures look absolutely phenomenal for him. I don't see him being rotated. And the risk of rotation on the other side between Chilwell, Cucurella might be a bit more kind of like obvious to or more regularly occurred. But I think in terms of Reece James, his minutes are more nailed on. And Leeds away, Leicester, Southampton, West Ham and Fulham, they all seem fixtures that he should be part of, and I think he should go big as well. For me personally, I think that he should be owned by more managers, and I want to advise that if you don't have Reece James in your squad, please do look to invest within him. Now, I know the obvious choice at the moment will be Cucurella because he's £1 million cheaper. I would still advise go for Reece James due to his output, his current form, and his stats are unbelievable in terms of background stats for FPL. In addition, I would say with Reece James, you know what you're going to get. He's either going to give you a 1 or 2 pointer, or he's going to go absolutely wild. This week he's given us a mixture because he could have got another, couple of returns because of Havertz missing, and alternative things could have gone differently. But I do believe that that's the value he adds. The kind of like range he has in terms of like FPL points wise is absolutely insane. And I think he's the best value pick in terms of like points return for the investment in a Chelsea backline. So that's why I'd say keep him as a buy option. I would also advise going against selling Reece James to get Cucurella to get £1 million more to spend elsewhere. That's something that I'd also say avoid that. If you haven't got Reece James, I'd advise to look into him, get him into your squad if possible. If you have Reece James, I would recommend don't take him out for Cucurella. He's a far better option at this current point in the season. So that's the player I'd recommend to keep. Now, a player I'd recommend, obviously buy as well, I'd say, if you keep it or buy it as well. Now, another player that I recommend to kind of buy or keep as well would be Haaland. Now, if you haven't brought him last week, due to, let's just say, for example, the kind of price rise, so you weren't able to afford him without taking a hit. Do I recommend doing it this week? If it doesn't mean you take a hit, for sure. If you kept Kane last week and you're happy with his goal and you think that fixtures for Kane look promising, which they do, but if you do want to make this transfer, that's why I put them in the buy or keep category, because I know there's a lot of knee-jerking going on around, like Jesus, for example. Apologies for that. But what you can see from Haaland is he'll be there. He gets into those places. Foden, I don't know what he was thinking, not squaring that ball. I think he doesn't have him in his FPL squad. But I do think from what we've seen from Haaland, there is still a high ceiling of points and being rewarded. He's a good captaincy option as well. But if you do want to keep Kane, for example, for another week, that's entirely your choice. But I would say if you haven't brought him, do go for Haaland. And if you do have Haaland, I would say avoid like kind of knee-jerking, going towards Tony and Jesus and forgetting why Haaland is, the price he is and why he's so good. We can't forget how well he did in game week 1. And the fixtures below also show that there's some really good fixtures there, and he's a good captaincy option as well, because I don't think he's going to be rotated in the first 5 to 6 game weeks due to not having too many fixtures and one fixture every game week. So that's what I'm saying. It depends on which category he falls under. If you want to buy him, I would advise to buy him. If you have him, I'd say keep hold of him, because there's no need to knee-jerk and go elsewhere. He will give you more returns, and the fixtures there give us the full confidence that there will be some returns coming our way. Now, I would say this comes under the sell category for me, because it's the most common question I've been asked. And personally, I own Neto myself. Neto or Bailey, should we keep, buy? I mean, no one wants to really buy them, I'd say, at this point, because they haven't really given us the returns. I think there's better options who look in better form. For example, Fabio Da Silva, who's got returns in his first couple of games, and his price has gone up to 4.6. But there's also players like, Rodrigo, Harrison from Leeds. They're doing well. But in terms of Neto or Bailey, I would say personally, I would sell them. I want to take another transfer over to next week. That's why I'm not selling Neto this week. I'm probably not going to be playing him either. He's probably going to be on the bench for me, and I'm probably most likely going to be playing Nico Williams as 5 at the back. That's just something that I'm looking into at the moment. There's no confirmation of that as of yet. But for me, Neto, if he doesn't return this game week coming, which I think he won't, there's a very strong likelihood that I will be selling him as 2 transfers. A part of 2 transfers where I might look to get like a £5 million defender in and a £4.5 million midfielder, or I could just go vice versa and look for alternatives like Fornells, for example. There's Souček at 5.5. There are alternative, players that I can look into as well, but Neto and Bailey for me. Bailey, I don't know what he did in the first game because I didn't really see him much in the highlights I watched. And the second game, he was benched, so he's not even like fully nailed on to play. And if you're playing him in a starting 11 and your bench is weak, I think there's a time that you actually, if you have a free transfer, this is the perfect time to sell him. That's why these two have come into my sell kind of category, and I put them on the same page because this is the most common question I've been asked last week and this week. Do I keep them? Do I move on? I personally would say that I'm looking potentially to sell these guys, not this week because I don't own Bailey myself. I own Neto, but I'm looking to sell Neto because at the moment I think there might be more value added to my squad personally with a back 5 or an alternative 5.5, but we'll just wait and see what I feel. But for now, I would say this game week, if you're looking to make changes to your squads, these two, and if you have some transfers available without taking any hits, will be ideal to move on and get alternative players to make your strong squad look even more stronger. And then the next category I'm going to go on to is keep. So Saka, Bukayo Saka's kind of got under the radar because Martinelli and Jesus have done so well starting off. Xhaka had a good week as well, so a lot of managers are querying about Xhaka. He's had a good week after a very, very long time, so I'd say pretty much avoid Xhaka for now. But let's talk about Saka. I didn't really intend that to rhyme, but let's just say we're talking about Saka right now. So fixtures-wise, Arsenal have some really good fixtures coming up. So if you've backed him for the first 2 game weeks, I know he hasn't given us a return as much as we want him to, whereas other players, like, for example, Kulusevski had a big week. Maddison's had a good week as well. Diaz had, a blank first game week. We're still waiting to see how he does against Crystal Palace. But in terms of Saka, the fixtures look good. He's done well last season. I think he's going to be on penalties, pretty much guaranteed, unless Martinelli wins it and he wants to take it. I'm not too sure about how that will go. But I think he's on penalties generally. So I don't think we need to actually think about selling him right now. However, if you do have some transfers built up and you think you want to go for an alternative, there's obviously Kulusevski, Diaz. Kulusevski's actually gone up in price. So if you have some money in the bank, it'll be more useful there. Maddison, for example, Diaz from Liverpool. There are players at the 8 million mark that we can look into to get into our squads. Phil Foden, Jack Grealish at 7 mil, Bernardo Silva a bit cheaper as well. So there are players that we can look into. Sancho, I'd say avoid. But Saka, in terms of, for me, if I had him owned, at the moment in my squad, I personally would say, look, there's some good fixtures coming up. He just hasn't got the returns. Unlucky. Let's just back him, save the transfer, at least give him at least 2 games more before the Villa game to see how it kind of goes. Because I think he will get returns. It's just been unlucky the first 2 game weeks. So this is why I put him into the keep category, because I feel that he's going to be a high percentage likelihood of people selling him. But they've backed him for the games before. But these are games that I also think that if we just show a bit more patience and keep him in our squad, I think the returns will come and you will get the reward for your patience. So that's why Saka comes into the keep category. So I would say this player will be highly transferred out, most likely this game week for alternative players. But I do believe that there's a lot of good, I'd say good points and big points to come from Saka as well. Now going on to the scout section. So we've talked about Reece James, and I've talked about my reservations about managers who own Reece James like me, selling Reece James to buy Cucurella for 5 million and then moving on and spending that £1 million elsewhere in their squad. As I mentioned, I'm not a person that's kind of like advising to do that this game week. I don't think I'd advise ever to do that in any game week. I'd rather you double up on the Chelsea and keep Reece James than just get rid of him full stop. Because I rate this guy so highly in terms of like Reece James as an FPL asset. If fit to go, he has to be ready to be playing in your squad. Cucurella, I've seen him. I'm not knee-jerking. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon. How good did this guy look? I think he was phenomenal. The only concern I have is risk of rotation, because I just don't understand how Chelsea are going to play this, because they're looking to buy Fofana. He's going to play the right side of centre-backs, because I think he likes to play there. They've already got Thiago Silva, who likes to play there. They've got, I think it's Cucurella on the left today, left wing-back. And then they had Koulibaly at the left side of the centre-back. They've got Ben Chilwell still to come. They got Loftus-Cheek playing right wing back as well. There's so many options there at the back. So risk of rotation is going to be huge. But what does that mean to your squad? Will he be one of your 4 main defenders and then you have like a 4 million defender like Nico Williams or James Patterson? It just depends on how you want to make that squad. For me, that makes your squad a bit too weak if you have a rotation player there. So for me, I think you should invest only in Cucurella if you can actually get another solid midfielder in your squad. And plus, we shouldn't go by just one game week. I know he looked phenomenal. He's on set pieces, free kicks, corners, deadly in front of goal. He looks good. I don't doubt it, but I just feel that there's just so much risk associated with it at the moment. I just don't feel comfortable long-term owning him. But the reason why I put him on this scout list is short-term I can see why it could be a good reason to own him because of the fixtures. And with Chilwell not being fully fit. So that's why he's made the scout list, that I feel that if I am looking to take a short-term punt on Cucurella, might be a good shout. But if I think of him as a long-term asset, I might struggle because when he starts getting rotated and the ranks start spreading out, that's when the panic will begin. So for now, I'd rather go safe and sound and stay with James. I don't really want to double up on Cucurella. There's an alternative that I could look at was to go Ramsdale and then bring in Cucurella and then swap Edison and have Cucurella in my defence, and Gabriel as well goes out. But I don't want to take away my third Man City asset, which is Edison. So again, I'm thinking about it at the moment. I do want to give it a couple of more game weeks, but the fixtures look good, so definitely worth scouting. Do I think it's worthwhile bringing it in for this game week? If you got someone like Matty Cash for sure, who's injured, you want to look for a replacement. Or if you're looking for a replacement for a £5 million defender in your team, then short term, yes. Long term, I have my reservation, so that's why he makes the scout list for now. Who knows, that can change next game week or the game week after if I get more insight in terms of how he's performing and how regular or how fixed on he looks to be nailed in the starting lineup. So that's the kind of squads and the players that I'm looking at the moment, guys. So that's the kind of like list of buy, keep, hold. If you want to call it either keep or hold, of sell and scout. Versions of the players that I'm looking at. So far, 67 points in game week 2. Still the Liverpool / Crystal Palace game to go. 1 game week to go, 2 players to play. How high can I go? Top 900k so far. Let's hope I can get into the top 500k as soon as possible. Best luck to all you guys for game week 3 selections. Get your transfers in as soon as possible. If you guys haven't given us a like, give us a like. And if you haven't subscribed to FPL INKLING, why not? hit that button. It's absolutely free. Help us grow the family and be part of this FPL channel. Let's have a good week, guys. Get your transfers done, stay safe, and I'll be back with some more content very, very soon.